If you're running a trade business or maybe a small SMB that's selling hours, there's a good chance that you're losing money on every hour you sell and you're not even aware of that. I'm going to tell you about a calculation that's going to make a huge difference to your profitability, why it's really important, and I've got a free resource for you at the end of the video. G'day, my name's John and I've been an independent business advisor for over 15 years. What I've found is that most folk understand their direct costs. They know what their direct wages are, they know what their purchases are, they understand their costs of sale. But what they sometimes forget about is their overhead recovery rate. On paper, it looks like every staff member works 2,080 hours a year. How have I arrived at that number? Well, 52 weeks of the year times 40 hours a week. We'll use 40 hours on this example. You may be more, it may be less. It doesn't really matter. But in reality, we need to deduct some hours straight away. 20 days annual leave, 10 sick days, 11 stat days. That is 41 paid days but not worked. Then that equals 328 hours per person. So let's do a bit of an adjustment. Let's take our 2,080 hours and minus our 328. That gives us 1,752 possible hours. But again, not everyone is 100% productive. They can't be. There's downtime, travel, toolbox meetings, staff meetings, yard time, non-billable hours. So let's assume in this example that they are 75% productive. So 1,752 times 0.75 gives us 1,314 chargeable hours per staff member. Let's assume we've got 10 staff. So 10 times 1,314 gives us 13,140 chargeable hours. And if you don't know what that number is in your business right now, there's a good chance that you're undercharging. So let's run the overhead calculation. We'll assume for this exercise that your below the line expenses are $500,000 a year. That's anywhere from accountancy, ACC, insurance, rent, admin wages, subs and licenses, whatever it might be for your business. But let's assume that it's $500,000. We're going to take that $500,000 and we're going to divide that by the available chargeable hours, which in this case is 13,140. 500,000 divided by 13,140 gives us an overhead recovery rate of $38 an hour. Do you know right now what your overhead recovery rate is and what it needs to be? The next stage is to work out your charge out. So we'll assume for this exercise that you're paying your staff an average of $30 an hour. So $30 an hour plus $38. You need to be charging no less than $68 an hour just to break even. And I haven't factored in any debt servicing, I haven't factored in any profitability. It is just a break even from a profit and loss perspective. So let's assume that you want to make $12 margin on every hour. So your charge out rate is now $80. $80 less the hourly rate, less the overhead recovery, gives you $12 of profit per hour. Do you know what your profit is per hour, per employee right now? Because if you're only charging $60 because that sort of feels right, or that's what you think the market will entertain, there's a good chance for every hour you work, you're losing money. And multiply that across 10 staff, across the whole year, you can be losing potentially thousands and thousands of dollars every year simply because you don't understand what your overhead recovery rate needs to be. So the key point here is continually review what that overhead recovery rate is. Every quarter, have a look at your expenses, have a look at your chargeable hours, because there's only so many levers you can pull to improve that. Number of hours worked, productivity, rate charged. What does it need to be? What do you need to do to earn more money per hour per employee? So do you know your rate, or are you still guessing? In the link below, you'll find a worksheet, very simple worksheet. You can put the key data in there. If you don't know that data, you're going to have to make some assumptions, but that's going to give you a starting point to think about what is your overhead recovery. Hope you got some value out of that. Hope that helps you when it comes to setting your charge out rate and pricing. Check out the next video for some more tips, and until next time, catch you later. Thanks very much.